Looks like it is being live streamed. Okay, looks like folks are still joining in. And I'll wait maybe like a minute before we get started. Just gives everybody some time to join in. Let's give it a minute. Okay. 7:02. Maybe we can get started. Okay. So good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight at our March general meeting. My name is Ravina Nimbalkar, and I'm the Executive Director at NAMI Santa Clara County. Before we get started about our presentation and everything else, I'm just going to go over some of the updates at NAMI Santa Clara County. So our helpline is up and running from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday via phone as well as email, as well as we do have walk-in hours from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We also have after-hour family support, which is available on evenings and weekends. All our support groups are listed on our website, and they are offered in person as well as some are offered over Zoom and some are hybrid too. So you can go to our website, namisantaclara.org, and take a look at what suits you the best. For educational classes such as family to family, familiar to familiar, peer-to-peer, persona-to-persona, provider education, you can contact our helpline number, which is 408-453-0400, and select option 1 for further details. And you can put your name in the interest list, and somebody will get in touch with you soon whenever the next session starts. NAMI Basics as well as NAMI Homefront are on demand and on our website, and you can take it at your own pace. The next FaithNet MH101 is going to be on May 22nd, and we've been sharing information about it. So if you're interested, you can also call a helpline or even contact our FaithNet team, and they can share more information about it. Our community peer program continues to match via hospitals as well as self-referrals. And again, we have on our website, we have a community peer program page where you can fill up the form, and this way it will come to our staff members who will get in touch with you if you're interested in the program. So this year, NAMI Santa Clara County is celebrating our 50 years. And so we are very thrilled to invite you to celebrate our 50th anniversary with us. It's going to be a day filled with heartfelt moments, inspiring speakers, exciting activities, and a chance to connect with friends and supporters of mental health advocacy. This is an event you don't want to miss. So we look forward to celebrating 50 years of making a difference in the lives of individuals and families impacted by mental health. The event is going to take place on Thursday, April 10th. Registration opens at 10:30 a.m. The location is Villa Ragusa in Campbell. And if you need more details, you can go to our website, and there is a link where you can purchase the tickets. This is a ticketed event, so you can purchase ticket by going to our website, and all the information is out there too. NAMI Walks Silicon Valley is going to be on Saturday, October 4th at the same location, History Park. And we are going to start sending out more information about NAMI Walk Silicon Valley as well very soon. But our website is up and running, NAMI Walks/Silicon Valley, and you can start registering for the walk if you'd like to. You can start creating your teams and start registering for it. And we're going to have our annual picnic in June. We'll be sending out the date, information, and the location very soon. Okay, before I invite the speaker for tonight, we are going to be voting for the nominees of the NAMI Santa Clara County Board Officers for 2025-2026. The nominees are President Uday Kapoor, VPs Beverly Lozoff, Juan Perez, Frank Eliotto, and Morit Milo. Treasurer Scott Welton, and Secretary Peter Newman. If all NAMI members could please raise your hands to vote, that would be very helpful. Okay, I'm seeing hands. That's great. Okay. I have 10 hands so far. Anyone else who wants to raise their hands? Okay, so we have 11 votes for our state of board. Okay, there are more hands coming up. Okay, we have more now. 12 votes. Okay, great. So we do have 12 votes, and so we will be approved. So the slate has been approved, and I think in the April meeting is when the board will be installed. So thank you everyone for raising your hands and approving the slate of the board. So really appreciate that. Okay, so moving on to our presentation. Our work environment has a huge impact on us. It is imperative for our workplaces to be mentally healthy and supportive. And businesses everywhere can support their employees by becoming a stigma-free company, a company with a culture of openness, acceptance, and understanding about employees' overall health and well-being. So tonight's presentation will feature a presentation by NAMI Santa Clara County's Community and Media Relations Liaison, Tiffany Austin, as she discusses mental health in workplace. The presentation will address work policies that are considerate of mental health and ways to decrease stigma in workplace and how to appropriately show support to employees. Tiffany has been with NAMI for about 3 years now. She came in as a volunteer, and now she is in this position. And all the social media posts that you see are all done by Tiffany, and a lot of the emails that you receive on through our the mailing list, Tiffany works really hard on them. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Tiffany. I hope that you're able to share your presentation and take it from there. And then we'll open it up to Q&A, question and answers at the end. Feel free to put in the chat as well as the Q&A section. So yeah, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ravina, and thank you everyone for being here. Thanks for participating in our board voting also as well. We really appreciate your attendance and your input as always. So today, I'm just going to go into our presentation. I'm going to be sharing my screen. Bear with me for just a moment. Right. Okay, perfect. All right, so I cannot see anyone's hands at the moment, but I'm just gonna maybe just go off of guesses for how familiar we are with the word stigma. And honestly, I believe as everyone here who is knowledgeable about NAMI, maybe it's your first time here in a meeting, and for that we are grateful for your presence. But maybe you're already familiar with what stigma is, and maybe you do currently have a job, you're employed, and you wanted to come here to learn a bit more about how you can have a stigma-free workplace in your own environment. So we're going to go into just about what that means, how you can have conversations with your fellow coworkers, and also maybe hopefully share some stories if you'd like. This is a safe space. And yeah, let's get into that. Okay. So as Ravina mentioned a few moments ago, my name is Tiffany. I am our Community and Media Relations Liaison here at NAMI Santa Clara County. And I did get involved first as a volunteer, and then I began working as a staff member about 2 years ago. Um, so, workplace mental health is quickly becoming a very imperative topic. Um, I would say about 10 years ago, I was in high school. I would say that workplace mental health wasn't really a topic. Um, Even though I was still a minor, I did have a few jobs. So I began to see how adults can be impacted by mental health when they're even just working, because it's something that impacts us everywhere, correct? But even in the workplace, it could impact us by the way customers are interacting with us, by the way our employees treat us, and the way that our coworkers interact with us. And sometimes that can carry with us home as well. And that can be pretty exhausting when the two begin to affect one another, our home environment and our workplace environment. First, a little bit more about NAMI in general. I'm sure that you are all experts of your own experience with NAMI, but maybe if you want a little refresher, if you're new here, who is NAMI? So, NAMI is the nation's largest grassroots mental health nonprofit with over 600 local affiliates and 48 state organizations. So, here in NAMI, Santa Clara County, we're a local affiliate, and then our big parent state organization is California, NAMI California. So chances are we're in your community here in NAMI Santa Clara County. We provide mental health education, advocacy, support, and guidance. And then for myself, as our community and media relations liaison, um, when I first began working as a volunteer, I also met with one of our lovely staff members. If you're familiar with Adela, she was helping with the Ending the Silence program, and she was beginning to familiarize me with the program. But at that time, I was also working as an assistant to a wedding planner. Then I still am in my part time. In my free time, I like to partake in some weightlifting. I like doing some videography, volunteering with the Miss America organization. I was previously Miss Santa Clara a few years ago, and I began to become very much involved in that organization ever since. I also love spending time with my loved ones and honoring my late dog and my beloved late best friend Kiwi, who's pictured right here. So that's just a little bit more about myself. I wish I could hear more from everyone here as well. If you want to go ahead and go in the comments, maybe one fun fact about you, feel free to do that. I would love to read that when I'm done screen sharing. Okay, and I'll make sure to read them aloud so our YouTube viewers can also hear what you're saying as well. Okay, so next we're just gonna do a little check-in. Maybe you can answer this to yourself, think it to yourself in your head. How has your experience with stress been? Would you say that your levels of stress have been manageable? And maybe think about how stress has been at work, maybe at home. If you're a parent, maybe things have been a little bit stressful with your kids. Maybe you have a senior in high school, they're hearing back from colleges soon around this time. You're worried about them going away. Maybe they got rejected from a school and you're concerned about your kids' mental health. Or maybe something at work is happening. It's giving a transition time with quarters ending. Um, so just take this moment to check in with yourself. Maybe notice if you're also thinking, actually, I have been pretty stressed and maybe I need some support or need to find a way I can delegate these tasks. You're on the opposite end and you realize, I think I'm doing pretty well with my stress. Then that's great as well. Okay, next we're gonna go to the next question. How are you engaging with your social supports? So maybe when is the last time you were with people who really help you feel supported. Hello?
You're still here. I think you had frozen for a bit.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. Yeah, I think my Wi-Fi is shaky. Let me try to screen share again. Thank you everyone for coping and following along. May I ask, Rowena, where did I start to freeze a little bit? Was I at the second bullet point? It's okay if you're not sure.
Yeah, I think that's where you were.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that, everyone. Thank you for adjusting. Okay. Um, so we all need a good support system to help us stay healthy. Um, Maybe if you're finding that you're struggling with feelings of isolation, loneliness, um, a good opportunity maybe is volunteering in your community, maybe joining a class. Sometimes there's all kinds of cool events going around, and you can drop in for free. Not to plug NAMI, but we do have a lot of awesome opportunities. Maybe if you um, just want to hang out in our office on Wednesdays, we have great volunteer opportunities. We can let you know more about that. Um, yeah, but also I want to be respectful of your energy too. Yeah, okay. And this last question right here is, when is the last time you had fun? Sometimes this can be something that can be hard if you're trying to go about your mundane tasks as adults. But we all have fun in different ways. Maybe you're running groceries or you just got off work and you decide, hey, I'm going to get myself like a scoop of ice cream. It's not something I've had in like a long time and just a little treat for myself. Or maybe you love to watch your favorite show at nighttime. Maybe you have plans this weekend with your friends. These are just perfect ways for just to have fun because I want you to hear me when I say this. You are deserving of fun. Everyone is deserving of fun. And that can be a great way to support yourself with stress also as well. And it's important for you to make time for fun as well. So I'm hoping with this slide, it can get you thinking about your own mental health. Um, but also we want to focus in on this presentation and exactly set the theme what we're going to begin talking about. You can also, if you want to, in the chat, maybe talk about something you did that was really fun recently, and I would love to share it at the end. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about numbers. And I personally am not the biggest fan of math, so this is something that's not always super fun for me. Um, Numbers can be scary, but this is also very important because it's a reminder how this impacts us, how prevalent stress can be, how important mental health is. So I hope that you can take something away from these numbers. Um, Numbers around workplace mental health are honestly pretty significant. They're very staggering. both employees and companies struggle when they don't invest in mental health also as well. So as we learn more about this topic, um, it's integral how it is for companies to invest in mental health for the workers, but also it's important for the worker themselves. So everyone benefits on both sides. So right here we can see 57% of workers indicated negative impact on themselves because of work-related stress. So it's impacting their work. Stress is impacting their work. We can also see right here with the impact on the employers globally, about 1 trillion is lost annually due to decreased productivity associated with mental health costs. So maybe if you are a business owner, or maybe you're a manager, it's super important for you to be investing in mental health for your employees. And then just to talk about a mental health condition that's very important related to work, depression. So depression is a leading cause of disability claims worldwide. Each statistic speaks to employers about why this is important. And also note that for employees, these statistics show just how widespread mental health conditions are at work. So we're beginning to see this not just be at home, but when we are at work as well. Okay. So maybe this is a pretty common statistic you're aware of. 1 in 5 adults live with a mental health condition. In my experience, whenever I bring this up with people, um, they typically say, "Oh wow, I thought that would be 3 in 5 adults," or maybe they have a different experience and they say, "Wow, I thought it'd be 1 in 10 adults live with a mental health condition." Um, but the important part is, no matter what, no matter how many people are experiencing it, they're not alone in that experience. Especially everyone here, you are not alone if you are experiencing a mental health concern or condition. And it's important that we talk about it because that can also play in part with defeating stigma. And our experiences matter. But how do we exactly go about that in the workplace? Maybe we're afraid of getting in trouble. We don't know where that boundary is. Another pretty significant statistic when we talk about this, not just within our nation, but also thinking about it worldwide, is that depression alone affects over 264 million people. So that just highlights alone how urgent it is for us to have awareness, support, and accessible treatment options. And that last part can be pretty relevant to our work because maybe you get your healthcare through work. So how does your work help you access treatment for depression? All right. So as we sat with that, I do see two things in the chat popping up. Let me see if I can be able to view this. Oh, okay. I see Harold has shared one of his experiences. And I think I'm going to take a moment for us to share that, if that's okay, for those who can't read in YouTube. So Harold says, I am stressed daily by the current political situation, which is trying to make bias, hate, and cruelty normal. I'm avoiding some news programs on TV. I'm spending more time talking with family and friends about how we can resist the chaos happening in Washington. I had fun last week by meeting with friends of 50 years at a Stanford College basketball game. I also am spending more time researching my heritage as that helps as a distraction and gives me hope that our country will eventually return to a place of hope and love. Thank you so much, Harold, for sharing. I think the way that um, the flow of that paragraph, I think a lot of us can relate to how you're feeling, perhaps. And even if some of us maybe don't, I think we can commend you no matter what for sharing your experience. So that took bravery, and I appreciate you for that. Um, but I do recognize some key words here about you saying you're feeling stressed daily. That's very impactful. The fact that you're feeling it every single day, maybe throughout the day, um, especially when it's something that's current and ongoing um, for some time and will be for a few years. Also on TV, that's impacting your media. But the fact that you have time where you take a step back, have time with family, you go out with friends of 50 years, that's awesome that you're seeing people that you have such a strong connection with, your social supports, and you're having fun, supporting a local university. And sports are always fun. So basketball game is high energy, but great environment as well. And also researching your heritage, getting connected with yourself, your roots. That's amazing. Um, and also just ending it with saying about hope and love. I think that's very admirable. And I think we can all agree that hope and love are always something that we want to return to. So I appreciate you, Harold, for sharing. And I'd love for anyone else to also do that if you'd like to. Okay, so next we have a few more thoughts about some experiences that we have. 32% of adults reported anxiety and depression symptoms this year, and 47% of young adults within 18 to 29 years old reported anxiety and depression symptoms. So, right here, we're just saying how impactful it is for many people um, to be impacted by mental health conditions. And this is all reported by the CDC. They track this data on an ongoing basis. I believe this is from 2023, but I'd say that that's still pretty relevant to today. Um, and so I think one thing that is important is we see adults are struggling and also young adults are struggling. And that can be scary because young adults are our future. They're the next group of people that are going to be determining our workforce. They're the people that maybe you're training, um, people you see at our universities, like how Harold saw at Stanford. And if they're already starting to feel anxiety and depression symptoms, that's going to impact our economy. That's going to impact the doctors that we go to see. So we need to ensure that as role models, we're talking about mental health. We're beating that stigma. So we're a great support system for them to see. So I think one way that we can do that is caring for ourselves. So if you are feeling stressed out, it's okay to get help. Maybe also learn about the conversations you can be having in the workplace. And everyone's doing a great job by that by being here. So let's talk more about that. So here are some ways that we are being impacted by our mental health. So economic fluctuations can be pretty stressful um, because not only does it impact us, but impacts the whole globe, impacts the whole world. We can still be feeling the effects of the pandemic. Recently here in the United States, there was an not academic, administrative change. So with that can cause some fluctuations. Maybe if you just moved, all of that can cause a bit of stress. So that is very normal to feel. And also there can be a sense of isolation, maybe loneliness. A few days ago, we had that change in daylight savings. So now we have more sunlight. But maybe if you were feeling a bit sad during the winter days, or if there's something going on, that can be really impactful on our mental health. Lingering grief or loss. I know that I can feel this one a lot with the loss of my late dog or my family members, or maybe a friendship change. That's a really huge one. If maybe you lost a friend, that in itself can be like a grief. The person is still alive, but maybe your relationship is different. So that is something that's very real and can impact your mental health. And then maybe it can just be random little things that are stressful or disrupting your everyday. And then, of course, political and racial tension too. That can be very stressful and completely determine your life. So these are all things that just keep adding up and impact how we feel. So with all of this going on and so many other things, it's important to offer yourself compassion, offer yourself grace. And how can we even do that when we're at the workplace? So 74% of employees say that it's appropriate to talk about mental health at work, but only 58% report that they would actually feel comfortable sharing. So there's a little bit of a trickiness here, a little stickiness. We recognize that it's important to talk about mental health, but when it actually comes to doing it, it's kind of hard. How do we do that? We don't want to be judged. Maybe you don't want to say the wrong thing. Maybe you think, ugh, my story's not important enough. Someone's probably going through way more. It's okay, I'll just deal with it on my own. So this is where we can consider that stigma is playing a role. Maybe there's a lack of communication or that fear of retaliation. And those are some of the key reasons why there's still a little bit of a struggle here. So it's clear that we do need to be having more discussion around how to talk about mental health in a way that works for everyone and helps people feel safe sharing. And that's why we like to remind everyone stigma is real. There can be stigma with people around you, cultural stigma, self stigma. Self stigma is a huge one. So, as we continue to learn more about mental health, there remain to be barriers um, when it comes to talking about our mental health, which can keep us from reaching out for support or learning more about resources offered by our employer. But this could be a great opportunity for you to learn, what does my employee offer and how can I get help? So, what can we do? One way is to increase awareness and education. And I think that everyone here in this community already are experts at this. You can learn more about mental health. Maybe you participated in peer-to-peer. Maybe you're a facilitator for family to family. Just by doing that, you're already helping educate your coworkers, your community, and that's awesome. You can also create a culture of caring. You can lead by example by caring for your own mental health. You can be mindful of the words that you use. Um, One that I think of a lot with this is maybe about 10 years ago, I remember how normal it was for people to say, oh my gosh, hey, did you see the weather today? It's so bipolar. That has always been a big one that has been uh, really changing over the years. The knowledge of, hey, actually, maybe you shouldn't say that. Another word you can say is this, because bipolar disorder is actually a mental health condition. So it doesn't really work in that sense. So that is also a way of you to be mindful of your language. You can also learn how to support colleagues and your team, which we're going to get into in a few slides. And then ensuring access to care. So you can ask your employer, what benefits do you have access to? Maybe you're already knowledgeable about this. You can tell your fellow employees about that, how they can access benefits when needed. And if you are a manager or an employer, Make sure your employees are aware of this. I also want to touch really quickly on something called burnout, and maybe some of us have experience with that. Um, NAMI conducted a poll recently, and it showed that about 52% of employees experience burnout in that past year that they ran the study. So company culture goes a long way when we feel like we're mentally healthy at work. And also another really important fact is that 92% of survey participants in the same survey um, reported that access to mental health care was important to creating a positive workplace culture. So when you're aware of things, you keep that in the back of your mind for when you do need help or you see someone who does need some support. So to continue to build on that culture, that support, um, we're going to talk specifically how to do that in just a moment. So NAMI found also in their poll that employees who are less comfortable talking about their mental health at work are more likely to feeling burnout and their mental health suffering at work. That's sort of a problem because the people who are feeling a burnout, who are experiencing these mental health conditions, and the ones who are maybe suffering with their mental health are also the ones who are not even comfortable to talk about it. So, what do you do in that situation? How can we make sure that those people feel heard if they decide to talk? All right. I think one thing that I'm going to plant a seed with for right now is that one thing that can be really important is finding someone that you trust, especially when you're discussing burnout and workload. Maybe you have a colleague that you really trust, and maybe you want to talk to them and open up a little bit about the projects that you've been on or the flow of your shift and how it's kind of a lot for you right now. So, how can we do that? Let's say that you decide to maybe still sit in those feelings. You're still a little bit too scared to reach out to that person that you trust. What's going to happen? Maybe you'll experience those continued feelings of isolation and loneliness. You might find that your productivity and your performance is going to begin to fall off a little bit. There can also be some adverse physical and mental health consequences. So maybe um, you're finding you're oversleeping a little bit. One really interesting physical um, symptom that I personally get is when I'm stressed, um, I have this one nerve on the side of my head and it gets irritated. And it feels like a headache, but it also feels like an electrical zap. And as soon as I start to feel that, I really know, like, wow, okay, I'm getting really stressed. But sometimes it takes a while for you to get to that point. So it's good for you to stay in tune with yourself. You might also notice that when you're stressed out at work, it might come home with you. So those relationships at home might become a little tense. Maybe your relationship with your boss becomes a little tense. Kind of notice something's happening. And then if there's someone that you typically trust, that's going to also impact your relationship. And one that's very important to mention is also the risk of self-harm. And I want to remind everyone here that if it gets to that point, that ongoing period of time of stress, it reaches to self-harm, or even not yet, there's always someone to talk to, great resource is 988. But before we transition to the next slide, um, I just want everyone here to be reminded of that. So here are a few things that maybe you can stay aware of. And I'm going to talk in terms of yourself, but also a colleague also as well. So maybe your coworker that shares a desk, maybe right next to you. So first, let's talk about some emotions, some feelings. Maybe you notice, my coworker seems like they're a little bit more irritable lately. Or maybe they're really extremely worried about something that honestly they're typically not very worried about. They faced a similar situation before. They're pretty cool about it. Something's off. There could be intense highs, lows, being easily overwhelmed. Maybe you see something's different. They look really exhausted. This can be hard maybe to talk about something related to weight loss or gain. It can be something that's kind of you want to be sensitive of, but you might notice maybe they're um, different in the way that they appear. There's a fidgetiness, nervousness. There can be a drastic change in their appearance. Maybe you notice um, just something that you're concerned about. There can also be some of their actions that are concerning. Typically, maybe they like to have lunch in the break room, but lately they're more withdrawn, avoidant. They don't really like to talk as much. I do notice there's a drop in performance. This is also something sensitive to talk about, but substance use can also be something to keep an eye on. Maybe they're late to meetings or they're not even showing up. This one is a little hard because, of course, you're not in their mind, but maybe also think for yourself. Um, Maybe their concentration is changing. They seem a bit more confused. The way that you hear them giving themselves self-talk, it's quite negative. And then, of course, very concerning thoughts of self-harm. Although you may not notice all these signs, it can be pretty hard for us to be mind readers. It might be some indicators of what's going on under the surface. All right, so now we're going to talk about what do we do and what do we do not do. Something you can do is ask them if you can talk privately. So maybe instead of the main room, say, hey, do you want to go in one of the separate rooms or let's go take a walk outside. Um, this is a very important part. It's great to be respectful of boundaries. So you can say, is it okay if I ask you this? And say no, but I've noticed something. You can lead with listening and empathy. Understand that your experience, maybe with depression, is probably different than their experience. Your experience with a certain work project is different than theirs. Maybe you can bring some resources with you, 988, if you are concerned about them being in crisis or if you're knowledgeable, that can be a great support, um, even if you're not in crisis. And then, of course, just telling them that they're not alone in this experience. And I want to remind everyone that if you also feel like you want someone else to do this for yourself as well, you have that right to remind them of your boundaries also as well, but also appreciate that maybe they're just concerned. So they care about you, and as you care about your coworkers. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that perhaps you should shy away from. So definitely we would recommend probably don't suggest diagnoses. We are not registered psychiatrists. To my knowledge, maybe some of you are, which is awesome, but perhaps shy away from saying, hey, you know what? That sounds a lot like bipolar disorder. It's our it's best to maybe just listen, lead with that empathy. It's also probably best to not minimize or dismiss their experience. And don't put too much pressure on yourself to be their therapist because you're not the therapist. You're a colleague, you're someone that cares about them, but you don't have to take that all on to yourself. There are boundaries for you as well. And then also, it can be scary to ask questions, but sometimes they're important and they need to be asked. So it's okay if you would like to ask a question, maybe touching back with respect, ask them if it's okay for you to ask. And also maybe shy away from jumping in with solutions. Maybe they know what they have to do, but they just need a little bit of encouragement, or maybe they just want to vent a little bit. Okay, so this is kind of what I was talking about a few slides ago about language and like the use of the word bipolar, for example, maybe when describing the weather. There are ways we can talk about mental health in a safe way, um, in a way that is protecting those with certain experiences. Um, so one that is well used by us here in NAMI is replacing the term committed suicide with died by suicide. Another important way of language we like to use is try not to use mental health diagnoses in everyday language. This one can be kind of hard, maybe if it's part of your language for years, the word crazy or insane. Sometimes we might use it in like pop culture, like, oh my gosh, the new Lady Gaga album was insane. It's so good. You're insanely talented. Maybe you can say something like, oh wow, they're wildly talented, very talented. There are some ways that we can swap out these words. Also, something very important to keep in mind is being knowledgeable about our resources. We can always go to NAMI helpline. So here at Santa Clara County, NAMI Santa Clara County, we have NAMI helpline, and this is our information, just a little reminder. But also, NAMI National has their own helpline. If you are knowledgeable about some young adults or youth, there's also a teen and young adult helpline. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go to NAMI.org. And then, as mentioned before, 988, which is open 24/7, never ever closed. Okay, and I do see a awesome comment from Harold, and then also someone as well. So I'm going to take a moment just to read those. Guys, for your patience and for participating. So Harold says many employers now contact to offer employee assistance programs. For example, El Camino Health has an EAP called Concern that contracts with even small employers to offer assistance and advice to employees about their personal problems, be they financial, legal, or medical. That provides employees a safe place to ask for help, which remains confidential from their boss. I would like to see NAMI local, state, and national promote EAPs and offer that our NAMI helplines are a resource for employees and and their families needing support for mental health issues. That is an awesome point, Harold. Yeah. So, a lot of employers have employee assistance programs. Fun fact about when I give this presentation, for example, to a few slides ago, you may have seen it. I accidentally left um, a logo in, but I gave a presentation to a organization in our area, and there was a moment where their employer was able to talk about what kind of assistance they have, um, how they can have sessions with therapists, services through those employees' insurance. So it's always important for you to be educating your employees about how they can be supported. And you have that right here in California to also ask your employer, hey, what kind of support do we have here? So thank you so much, Harold, for the awesome reminder. And that's great that El Camino Health also has this as well, especially not just mental health, but financial, legal, medical advice. That's pretty awesome. So thanks so much for sharing. And then I also see a comment from Karen. Whether working or retired, the most helpful de-stress skill for me is one, mindfulness exercises like focused breathing, finding gratitude, physical activities, living the present moment, etc. Other things that help me feel grounded daily is two, finding meanings, spiritual or existentialism in my work or volunteer time or family obligations. Three, making connections and support with family, friends, coworkers, community groups. Four, accept myself and limitations. And five, self-care. Wow, Karen, that's awesome. I think I love how you have like a whole system for this, 5 parts. I feel like I need to take everything you and Harold said and just make slides about it because you guys are awesome and how you support yourselves, how you're so knowledgeable about supporting others also as well. So I really appreciate you sharing. Um, one that I think is pretty awesome is that you accept yourself and your limitations, and that's so true. We are not superhumans. We have limitations, and it's okay for us to reach out and ask for support from these connections you have, family, friends, community groups, coworkers. So I love that. And thank you for sharing that with us. Perfect. Okay. So we're going to kind of transition out of talking about workplace mental health, but we're going to talk a little bit about NAMI a bit more. Oops, sorry about that. This is something that Rowena mentioned towards the beginning of the general meeting. This is an awesome celebration we're going to have in about less than a month now. So it's April 10th. It's our 50th anniversary celebration, and it's taking place in Campbell. If you are on your smartphone, if you want to maybe scan this QR code, sorry, if you're on a computer and you want to scan this with your smartphone. If not, no worries. You can go onto our website, namisantaclara.org, and learn more about our anniversary celebration, how to buy tickets. It's going to be a really great event. Just wanted to mention that. Thank you so much, Harold. I appreciate your feedback. Yeah, thank you, Harold. Yeah, you're amazing. So I appreciate you being here. Okay, so um, again, I think everyone's knowledgeable about these. Usually when I give this to some various organizations in the area, this is when I begin to introduce these programs. But since I think many of you have experience in this, if you'd like, I think this is an opportunity if you want to maybe participate in chat, go ahead and say maybe a program that you know of within NAMI. Maybe there's one here that you're familiar with. And maybe you took it, maybe you've never taken it, but you've always wanted to. Feel free to drop it in the chat. One that I personally have never participated in what I think is really important is NAMI basics. I myself am not a parent, but I think it's really cool that parents can sign up for NAMI basics. It's a 6-week program, completely online, asynchronous, and you can just log in, do it all in maybe a few nights or spread it out. I think that's pretty cool. NAMI Homefront too is also a great resource. So yeah, you see something and feel some pride in how you were involved in NAMI. As Karen mentioned, she likes to volunteer. So this is a great way to get volunteer experience and a community. Ooh, I see some people in the chat. Awesome. I see Harold said, yes, let's celebrate the tens of thousands of clients and families that NAMI Santa Clara County has support over the last 50 years. Exactly, Harold. Yeah, this is a great opportunity to celebrate the tens of thousands of people that have been supported by NAMI, the people that we've made connections with. I think it's going to be pretty awesome. Although I've become involved with NAMI recently, I still have so much respect for everyone that has been involved up until this point. Yeah. I also see Karen said NAMI gave me great information and support. Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Yeah, we're just so happy to have you with us and the ways that you have given us great information and support also as well. You're invaluable to us. So we appreciate both of you guys and everyone here. All right. So it's just a reminder that you're not alone. Um, when we work together, we can all help lessen stigma. And if you maybe want to stay connected with us, I have my personal email right here, but we also have some media accounts that we are always keeping up to date with, and we'd love to see you there. So thanks everyone for being here. I'm going to hand it off to Ravina.
Thanks so much, Tiffany. Any other questions for Tiffany? Or if anybody had a comment to make, you can raise your hand, and then you can speak. All right. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Tiffany. This was such a great presentation. I have listened to this so many times, and every time am equally intrigued and interested in the presentation. And you have such a soothing way of presenting,
Oh,
which is very calming. But thank you so much for doing the presentation. I hope that you can take this presentation back, and if you know of any businesses, any organizations that might want to request a presentation like this, we do these through the year, but more particularly in May for Mental Health Awareness Month, we get requests from a lot of corporates. So if you are working at a corporate, at a university, any businesses, any other organizations, you can get in touch with Tiffany and I, and we are more than happy to organize this. It's absolutely free of cost to do this presentation. I think it gives such a great resource to the employees and to the managers as well on, having understand mental health and how to provide the right resources and how to better support your subordinates and your staff members. So it'll be, we'll be more than happy to do these. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, and thank you for the votes as well. And we will see you next month at our next general meeting in April. That is the second Tuesday of the month. I don't know the date at the top of my head, but it's going to be the second Tuesday of the month. So have a good night, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.